Hey guys, welcome to another session of Educators Roundtable. So tonight we're just going to get right into it. And as you know, it's me and Shannon. And we've got a lot of nice, I think, awesome stuff to talk about tonight. Tonight we're celebrating education. So people understand the importance of being an educator and how you should try to support your educators out here, whether it is a school administrator, a school district, your school community leaders, your parent liaisons. Did I miss anybody? Our substitute teachers. I mean, our counselors, what else are we missing? Because we always say teachers, but it's a whole team in there making the magic happen. Did I miss anybody?
I think you got them. I think you got them all.
All right, so tonight we are really going to rock this out. We're also, during our broadcast tonight, we want to make sure that we keep you up on the latest funding opportunities in education. So we're going to highlight a couple of grants that are out there for school districts and for teachers and individuals in education, because we want you to apply. You can also read the additional information at the PICF Inc. Facebook page, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So be sure, if you want to apply for that you go to those sites and we have all the information there. So Shannon, how is it going in New York? I mean, dude, it's hot out right now.
Is it?
Yes.
I've got 70 degrees here. I'm not quite. Where are y'all temperature wise?
We're like 80.
Oh, that's serious business. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
have that weather tomorrow. So good.
We're like doing hot and heavy in the 80s. So I'm pretty like amped over it right now.
Well, summer's here. I mean,
and that's the thing. I'm excited that summer's here. One, because I just felt like it just took forever to get here. I really did.
Yeah. It's been a long, cold winter. So yeah. And wet and rainy and like all the stuff that is just I
felt like we kind of skipped over like the whole spring extravaganza though. I don't really feel like we got how can I say this? I don't feel like we got it the spring. Like normally people, we have like a couple months of spring or whatever. And I know in a lot of school districts, they're seeing a definite increase in our students
activity.
Yes, our students' activities. So how are you guys doing there with your student activities?
I would say probably the same. I gauge if you look at the local news, you start to see an uptick in kind of just general activity. But before we get too far, I want to say to all the teachers and educators, happy belated Teacher Appreciation Week. I don't know if
I know. And that's the reason why we're doing this, because we couldn't do it the week that they had it, because I was off, you were off. We were doing things and we couldn't connect on that Wednesday. So that's why this podcast is the podcast that we were going to do, which is to celebrate teachers in excellence.
Let's do it.
All right. So guys, listen, we're going to get started with this week's podcast. And I'm really excited about this one. I mean, honestly, I just think it's pretty cool. Before we get into my technical difficulties here, which I don't have any major technical difficulties, I just want to make sure that I shared appropriately. I'm on my big thing. You know how you go into meetings and you say, are you sharing your information? And what's the first thing people say? Are you sharing your audio, right? So that's just a teachable moment for everybody, even people in IT. We still have to go back and make sure that we're sharing our audio. All right, guys, so let's get started.
Time after time, I would just say that it was just surprise just to see that they were interested in me and they wanted me to attend their institution, that they were offering me admission. And so I wouldn't say that I got used to it. Each time that I got to a new school, it was just a ton of excitement. I didn't apply to anywhere that I don't think I would be happy at. And so I just made a list and I started applying to them. And so my parents, they bought me a chemistry set a couple of years ago. I found a way to channel that curiosity into science, and that soon blossomed into engineering. And then from there, I really learned that I could use engineering to help people. I just became super interested in creating devices that could help disadvantaged communities and people going through difficult problems. And it's just turned into me creating different devices. I've been blessed with God with a lot of ability. And so, I mean, I just want to take the time and use it to the fullest extent and just affect others, positively affect them, and try and inspire other people.
Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to tell you right now, this was a moment where I looked at this guy, and he's one of those students you just want to kiss his face because he took full advantage, right, of education. He found his sweet spot, and his parents dived in on it. It was just like, and this guy got accepted by 27 different universities. He got over like a couple $1 million in scholarships. This dude was rocking it. What do you think about that, Dr. Shelley?
Sorry, my voice just didn't.
Okay, you can. I'm drinking tea, by the way. I just want to make sure everybody knows tea is not an alcoholic beverage in a teacup.
And I have my teacup as well. I did the same thing. I got my teacup. It is tea.
Why did you do that, Shem? Because I said it's not an alcoholic beverage.
You got to remind us that you're
not
not
drinking. They're gonna be like, "Well, she didn't give the disclaimer, so she must have an alcoholic beverage."
Right. People don't understand. My happiness is normal. It's not induced or anything. My happiness is normal. Right.
I mean, but and the happiness I have for young men like him that
oh my gosh,
able to make it through our system and have that supportive family to come behind him and lift him up. It's absolutely amazing. And that what's beautiful about it to me is that he took advantage of the opportunity to define success for himself. And to find that place that fit him. And but the challenge, and so I'm always going to give you that other shadowy side to this, is that do we all like the fact that what he did was in technology, because it's valued by the dominant society, then we see that as a huge win. But what if it was the same thing and he was that passionate about being an auto mechanic? Would we have the same gumption or if he was a barber, or if he was a plumber or something like that, would we have the same celebratory and kind of exceptionalism that we place on him if he was accepted into 27 trade schools as opposed to universities? And so while I don't want to take away from his spotlight, because that is awesome and amazing, and yes, young king, we want to celebrate what he has going on, we also have to recognize that the shadowy side to that is it still fits in with the dominant narrative that many of our children that look like those of us on this panel right now do not always get the opportunity to celebrate.
And I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I think a lot of times that's the oversight in our world, is that we don't look at a kid being able to do something outside of academia, being just as proud of that student as well as the student going there. Because I hear a lot of students say, a lot of parents say, oh, well, my kid didn't go to college, they're doing this. Don't do an O. It's okay. What are they doing? That's all I want to know. Like they do that whole disheartening thing of, whatever. So Shannon, what do you think about that kid? Like he totally, I don't know, he's like a little rock star to me.
Yeah. So before I answer that question, I'd like to start by saying good afternoon, good evening, Dr. Shelley Jones-Holt.
Okay.
Shannon, good to meet you.
Okay, I just want to say, just first of all, one of our other co-hosts, Chastity, we don't even want to talk about Dr. DeVoe, who's she's being a grandmother today, watching her babies.
Yeah, it's all good.
And so she said, but I'm tuning in. Okay, so I love her. Okay, so thanks, honey, for tuning in. She said that's amazing. The young man was amazing. But go ahead, Shannon.
So let me answer your question directly. I think it's awesome. I think he's awesome. I think that he's a brilliant young man. But let me just kind of paint a broader picture. I think that there's so much brilliance. We belong in those spaces. We belong in those rooms. And while that's the one story, there are so many other exceptional young people that absolutely deserve to be in those spaces, as does he, right? Like I think it's amazing. But I think that there are many more exceptions that we don't know about because good news doesn't travel as fast. So, but we belong in those spaces. We're brilliant. We're awesome. We are just wonderfully made. And I am in awe at seeing that young man do his thing. But we should be there, right? And we shouldn't just be at the table. We should be we should own the table. But that's a different conversation.
That's the thing what you just said.
Yeah,
we should own the table.
No, we don't want a seat, right? We want the table.
We want the whole table.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's so imperative, because in my little world, and I want to say to you, in my little world, it's so often that I'm the only person at the table. You have no idea. I went to this meeting for investors for the state of Michigan. And I kid you not, I was one of 3 Black women. And I was one of 4 Black people in that space with 100 white banks and investors in a space. I was the only IT person. And so many of them just wanted to entertain conversations with me because they couldn't believe a Black woman created an app. A lot of them were looking up the podcast in real time because they were so taken. I said, no, I do 2 podcasts a week. One is education. The other one is 5 F's to Love. They were like, okay, what's your next project? What are you working on? So I shared a couple of the other projects that I'm working on. That's tech projects. One is UData, which you guys will hear more about. And the other is my compatibility app is out there, but I've created a dating app that is really on the cutting edge. It's like no other dating app. And I'm super hyped about it. And it comes out later this summer because we're still in like beta testing because there's so many layers to this thing. It's so like out cold crazy, but I love it. And I can't wait till it hits the market. And the thing is, to me, it's never about money, but it's always showing them what we're capable of doing. And also with saying that, my company has stepped up their game and we've gotten into biometrics to fiber optics installation, working with new construction, existing builds. We're doing a lot of stuff in the virtual platform. We're doing, just some funky Code Medina stuff. So I love the guys that I work with. And I love my brands, both of them, my passion brand, which is 5S, and in my consulting firm. So
I'm just loke us with the funky Code Medina. I'm
excited
about that. Man,
you and I both caught that. Like this shit just
I just did that.
Code Medina in there.
Funky Code Medina.
Like only you.
I just because people they think like techie people, we're not in. So Dr. DeVoe says, did the scholar state that he, share the ways in which he went about navigating his pathway. Okay, that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight. A lot of parents, and I don't know if a lot of school districts are showing kids how to apply and get accepted into these schools. Like, I'm not really sure we're discussing it like in 9th grade, because that's when it should be happening. You don't start in like 11th grade going into 12th grade, or you
this should be happening in kindergarten.
It should be happening in kindergarten. But I'm just saying for our late comers, because I want to say I'm one of those parents. I planned my son's entire life from the time he was in my womb. Like I knew he was going to private school. I knew what I want. Everything that I thought he could be, he is. He was an excellent in sports, but he's smart. And he decided bump those scholarships, for football. I want to get into tech. And that's what I'm saying. He wanted to go into tech and engineering. So again, you're right. So you're saying, Shannon, they should be doing what?
All right. So let me give you a quick analogy. When I used to wait tables in undergrad, and it was at a steakhouse, I would go back to the table and I would say to the people at the table, hey, would you like to take home? Because I know you're full. You had this amazing meal, this peach cobbler, this brownie, or like this blueberry like thing that we had, right? I didn't ask them if they wanted dessert. Right. It was a foregone conclusion that they would purchase the dessert. So I asked them which one did they want. And so I think how we should operate as we move forward, as we think about our students and our children is not, are you going to college? And should you choose to, which one are you going to go to? Right.
Exactly.
It's not an if, it's a should you choose to, and it's not, and it shouldn't be anything unusual, and it shouldn't be a question. It should be just much more of a choice.
I like that. It's, and that's the thing, what you just said, should you choose to, like, what route are you going to take? So I know, I'm going to be honest with you. I know what she's doing over there. So Chazro said, you rock, Christine Burkett. Can't wait for your new abs. Oh, thank you, Chaz. Honey, it's going to be a big announcement. Trust me. And by the way, and one of the things that I want us to be clear, don't be afraid. One of the things I love about Dr. Shelley, she does not pressure her kids to go in a direction that she has gone in. Yep. She allows them to be creative in their own space. And her and her husband, who I call, everybody knows that I love him. He's like a Superman to me. That would be her husband, Mr. Holt over there. They really dive in and let their kids do what they're in their space, and they cultivate that space. And that's what I love about her. Just because she went to academia, she's not expecting her kids to follow. She's like, if you want to be a singer, let me support your singing. Let me, support that and be behind you. So the thing is that you're right. We need to start from kindergarten doing that. So what do we say to parents right now who, I'm going to be honest with you, if your kid, and if you don't understand what it takes right now to get the scholarship money, honey, you need to get on it. Dr. Shelley, what is one of the things that you would advise people?
Well, first of all, I would recommend that every family do exactly what you did, Christine, and plan out not just your child's future, but your family leadership legacy. And that we have a program where we look at the 5 pillars of generational family leadership. And within this, you also are looking at, you're looking at all of the areas, not only of you and your mate or whoever your partner is in raising your family. And that could be your spouse, that could be grandma, that could be a group of friends or the village, whoever those people are. But you also are very clear about the 5 areas, which are home leadership, turning a house into a home, personal leadership, who are you and what's your relationship with a higher power? How are you embracing all of the parts of your cultural identity? And so, recognizing that you are not the be all end all, but you also have a unique personality and that needs to be cultivated. Relational leadership, how do we have positive? I'm trying to make sure that this background thing doesn't happen, but relational, I know I'm like floating all over the place. Relational leadership, which is your ability to have relationships inside and outside of the home, and to be honest, to conflict in a healthy way. Because we can form really good relationships, but we don't necessarily always understand conflict. We also don't always understand intimacy. And then financial leadership, how do you make your money work for you? And then what you're talking about here is that school and career leadership, which is your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s that are going to help you fulfill the other 4. And what often happens with parents is people love babies. And people have mixed feelings about kids. And I say this, having, 8 children. Yes, I have 6 that I birthed, 2 were my free gifts with purchase. But I mean, people love the little babies, but as soon as their stuff starts to stink, all of a sudden it becomes somebody else's problem. And we only want to be at the highlight parts, but we don't want, like, a celebration is a celebration for a reason. It's to celebrate the fact that you made it through those challenging parts. And so every parent needs to plan out, what does home leadership look like? What does personal, professional, relational and home leadership look like for you and your partner, but also for each of your kids at every stage of life? People don't really, raising a family is not just all, giggles, and it's not all the cute stuff. It is hard work and it needs to be planned. So the first thing I recommend every parent do is, if you have not been on a family leadership retreat, get yourself some time away so that you can actually just sit down and go, now, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? However many kids I have, whatever I have in my life, what am I doing here?
And that's true. I think you're right, Dr. Shelley. I think as parents kind of getting themselves together so they know where they're going. Let me see. Dr. DeVoe, she said, absolutely, Shannon, create a college going culture. And you should. And she's right on the point. Yvette, thank you so much for watching us in Texas. They start, what did she say? They start in my district in 9th grade to set up their College Board accounts. But junior year is when more students apply for scholarships. And I'm kind of surprised that they're waiting until their junior year. They should have already started applying. So guys, listen, what I'm going to do is when this podcast is over, I'm going to look up a couple things and put it out there on the PICF social media sites to help parents work in that space. Because again, you don't know when you're going through it, when you should be doing it. But like Shannon says, kindergarten is it. So guys, we'll be right back after these commercials because we got a lot to celebrate when it comes to teacher excellence and our excellent students out there making things happen. We'll be right back. Okay, guys, if you missed it, starting the month of June, August, I think June, July, and August, we're going to have bi-weekly podcasts because we want to make sure you get the best content possible. And all of us will either be taking our doctoral courses or vacationing with our families, but we won't miss connecting with you. So we're going to change to bi-weekly podcasts. So with that being said, guys, I think we're ready for our next awesome moment in education. I'm going to tell you, it's so many good things that's happening. I'm like really excited.
Okay, today we're going to be working on transformations
in the classroom.
Y is a second number in the coordinates.
Students at Lantana Community Middle School.
Oh, this would be over here. This would be your D.
Feed off his energy.
Oh, they actually call me Grandpa. That started a number of years ago.
And his
What's a half of a half?
positive attitude.
I get up there each morning and say, on a bell curve, I've passed that midpoint. I might as well get up and enjoy life each day. Move around better than most people.
He's always on the go.
I'm going to be 80 in April. High energy coming down the steps.
Walking across campus to different classrooms.
Yeah, it brings back memories. I used to do it as a kid. Yeah.
And Mike McGinty is using all his life experience
Amongst the mean, right?
and passing it on to his students, giving back
Figure out slices.
as a substitute teacher.
It's rewarding when you see a student in sixth grade struggling, and then by the time they get to eighth grade, you see their scores going up and they moved up a level or two. Why, right?
Mr. McGinty retired in 2000 after spending decades working in finance for Ford Motor Company.
That's going smaller.
But about 7 years later, when the recession hit,
It's a C.
he stepped into the classroom as a sub, teaching math, quickly winning over the kids
Free algebra, right?
and his colleagues.
You can zero in on a kid who may look like they're having a bad day or struggling, and his personality just lifts them up. And same with adults.
Mr. McGinty has been with the school district for 15 years.
Best sub I've ever had.
He's part-time, but comes to teach
Pay attention to math. It's important.
every single day.
You got to have someone that makes you want to go to school every day.
And during a pandemic, when it's hard to attract substitute teachers,
Try to get the best out of it.
at 79 years old, Mr. McGinty brings continuity into the classroom,
People interacting with each other.
and he's become a star at this school.
And I love it. I will probably continue until physically I'm unable to do it, as long as the school system will have me.
In Lantana, Ryan Hughes, WPTV,
Just add 0 and 1.
News Channel 5.
I'm in love with that guy. I just want to be clear. I'm so in love with him. That's going to be me. I think that when this is all said and done, I think the high energy that students give you in the classroom, I'm probably going to be 80 years old. Really, I'm going to be teaching biology and chemistry and some algebra to the kids. I'm going to be kicking out. So like, Shannon, what do you think about him? I just think he's so rock star.
Okay.
What?
So
I swear I'm going to miss you this summer. I'm going to miss you.
So I'm going to answer a question that you've not yet asked. And then
What
I'm
is
going to
that,
answer
Shannon?
that question. I think that the conditions that create the circumstance on a regular and ongoing basis for the need for a substitute teacher in a math class, it's problematic. Like, why do we need a sub for 15 years? But okay, so having said that, I think Mr. McGinty is valued. What? I mean, it's a problem. It
is a problem, but we have a shortage of teachers, and this guy is retired finance
and
guy.
the question is, why do we have a shortage of teachers? Why does this profession not respect the people who do the
I
work
agree.
to support their growth, to pay them what they deserve? Like, we should be doing all of that, right? If we did, we wouldn't need Mr. McGinty. I'm glad we have him.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't need it. That having been said, I'm glad he's there.
Mr. McGinty is such a freaking rock star.
He is. This is not about, okay. I really appreciate Mr. McGinty and his steadfastness, all of that.
Right.
But, like, we got to look at the conditions that like make this a necessity. That's the issue.
I agree with you.
He's a cool guy. I'm with it. 100%.
I think definitely 100%. I'm not. We're getting more and more communication. And the team was doing research last week when we were off. Is more and more school districts losing teachers by the hundreds. Hundreds.
I read somewhere today that within the next decade, New York is going to need 180,000 new teachers.
Yeah. I just said
180,000.
Thank you for joining us, Core Elements Higher Education Resource Center. We love to see this. Well done, sir. Thank you, Core Elements, for watching us. And we love it. And you're right. So all of these shortages, and I keep saying this, and all I got to say is I'm working on a solution right now. And Shannon, we talked about it a couple years ago, but it's actually going kick butt live, right?
Wow.
In the fall. But
you're making it happen, Burkett. You're making it happen.
I'm just saying that's the reason why we have to go to every other week, because I've got to focus on tech stuff. I got to focus on some tech stuff. But let me tell you, I'm really concerned, to your point, that we're going to miss that guy has so much love and passion just for mathematics, and the kids can feel that. Right? So Dr. Shelley, like with you, and just to let you know, guys, we're going to do a whole podcast just focused on her brand. Because when I tell you, you're going to want to hire her company after you hear her go live about what it is that she do. She's going to share a lot of the content with you. She's got slides. She's got really cool presentation. Don't worry about that.
When she said family leadership legacy, I was like, what?
I know, right?
5 pillars? I was like, what?
She does all of that. That's why we're just going to do a podcast. I'm just going to say, basically, I'm going to put myself in the green room and let her do it, because I'm just going to manage the commercials.
And thank you. You know what? And already I have nothing but love for all of that, because I do believe that we all need to connect together.
Yeah.
And part of what and Shannon, I don't want to I want to underscore what you said, because that is so very true. Yeah. We do need to go into the why we even need him. But the fact that he is there, I think that 2 things. One, having a building sub, because it seems like that's what he is. And the building sub is someone that is there because you do have people that, when you have a large staff, people are going to be out now more than ever, especially with COVID. And every other day, someone gets the sniffles and they're gone for 2 weeks, which has never really happened before. It was already a challenge. Yeah. Now we have folks out, and our children need continuity. Our children do best when they know, when they can predict, even if it's kind of like you think about the young kids that may not have the best mom and dad, but at least that's my mom and dad. I love them anyway, because at least I can predict. Like if you gonna mess up, I can predict that you're gonna mess up, and I know you're gonna be there to mess up, right?
You're gonna show up, so, get a mess.
But what he does bring is that continuity, and 1, 2, what he also brings is a generational piece that many of our kids are missing, and so. He brings there is wisdom in being on this earth for 79 years.
He did. Right? He says a lot of the kids call him grandpa.
Right. And so many of them, like myself included, I never knew either of my grandfathers because the Black men in America have not had the longest lifespans. And so that generational piece, a lot of our children are missing. And so he brings not only a sense of continuity, but he also brings this generational piece that many of our kids are yearning for. Like, I don't know, or maybe grandma or grandpa doesn't live close, or my 2 kids, my mother doesn't live in the state, and my husband's mother has gone on to be with the Lord, and so they don't have these connections. And so, like, I think about my 9-year-old, who anybody who he sees who is in that age bracket, he's like, "Oh, you're a grandma, huh?" He's like, "I like grandmas," and he thinks all grandmas gonna have like peppermints on them, and they're gonna give him a Werther's original. And he's like, "Can I get some candy?" Like, and you remember that. And so he brings a bit of that, and then he couches that in now a very important subject for all of our kids, which is mathematics. I was a math teacher as well. And we know people often want to think about literacy as being the gateway, but really algebra and mathematical literacy is a gateway for many of our kids because of the thinking that's necessary in order to do things like algebraic expressions and to think algebraically. It's not, and I always tell my kids all the time, it's not about me wanting you to do the operations or the computations. Right. I want you to think like a mathematician, because it's going to help you solve problems in a very different way than, in other arena. And so there's a lot of creativity and, that kind of whatever side of the brain, left brain or right brain, when it comes to English and literacy and, people that are writers and creatives. But then there's also a lot of concrete knowledge that comes in learning mathematics. And he brings that with this grandfatherly flair. And you can't buy that kind of greatness for kids. But we do need to recognize that that the fact that he's even needed is a problem. But if more folks came after retirement, Imagine how
Oh
wonderful
my gosh.
our kids would do.
Oh
And
my
that's
gosh.
what we used to do. Like we always
That
talk
is
about the
what
good
we
old
used to
days.
do. That
Kids
was
used
the
to
good
stay
old
with grandma.
days. I know. Okay, so Dr. DeVoe, she said, esteemed host, you all noted that there will be a shortage of teachers in the near future. How do we recruit more teachers? How do we make a profession look more attractive? Shannon, I'll leave that up to you. You already know where I'm at. I'm a techie. I'm ready to take it to the tech street. You already know.
I think there's just a fundamental lack of respect for the work that teachers do across the board, and in this country in particular, sadly. I think that I think we need to take a step back and think about what teachers need as it relates to pay. They should be some of the highest paid folks in the country. We need to appropriately support them in navigating some of the challenging communities that they work within. 80% of the workforce is white women, middle class white women who end up in Harlem, the Bronx, Brooklyn, in areas where poverty is the norm, and kind of supporting them in understanding the cultural competency needed to navigate that successfully shouldn't just be an afterthought. It should be the work that happens in the undergraduate and the certification programs. Then there has to be ongoing support, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom around kind of how you create your foundation upon which you build your lessons. And so all of these things need to be in place in order not to just attract new folks, but to ensure that we're caring for the folks that are currently doing the work.
So, and Shannon, I agree with you, but I'm going to say this as a person who did not go to school to be a teacher and got recognized over and over again for my enthusiasm for mathematics and science. I just want to say sometimes you need people who are like me. I'm the out of box person. I looked at that book and I was like, that book is not going to teach my kids. I used application science. I really taught the theory of science from
those are some of the best teachers.
I know, but that's the problem. We're not teaching teachers. We're teaching teachers to follow a protocol, a process, a book. We need to start teaching them. If you're passionate about English, how do you make English come alive? How do you do that?
I think, and this is,
by the way, I don't really like English. I just write well, but I just don't like English. I don't like English or social studies. I've never seen a purpose for it because I'm a math scientist. I've never seen a purpose. I'm going to tell you. Social studies. My teacher asked me what happened in 1913. I said, what happened in 1913?
Can you not?
I'm just being honest.
I feel you. And I think that's because you didn't have somebody like myself to make you so excited about how important history is.
And that's my whole point.
Understand, like the principle of Sankofa is one of the most treasured African principles that we have. And that is seeing the past so that we can definitely move forward to a better future. And if we don't understand what has happened, not just dates and memorization, it's about how history was taught. You see, I can go on a roll with it.
It's the experience of it.
It was horrible.
And that's what I'm saying.
History was taught horribly. Because it was often taught remembering dates and talking about people that I didn't care about. I didn't care about none of them. But
I didn't care about
we started talking about Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth. We started talking about rebellions and revolutions. And, oh, yeah, you had my attention. You talked to me about somebody, bucking the system. I was all over it. But it took educators approaching it that way and recognizing that is what I needed, which is exactly what all of our kids need our educators to do. They need to recognize what our kids need and get them what they need in the way they need it delivered. That's equity. And if you don't do that, you're going to get more people that say, I hate social studies and I hate that.
Like I'm not. And just believe it or not, when I was assistant superintendent, I actually had to teach social studies and the kids told me I was a rock star. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? They said, when is that lady coming back to teach our class? And they said, the superintendent's like, yeah, we like her. They was like, she's got to go do work. And so when they called me, I went back. So Chaz Vo says, I'm excited about Dr. Shelley's podcast. Honey, let me tell you something. Dr. Shelley's going to come on. She does have a podcast coming on, but it's not education related. But we're going to talk about that podcast because it's family related, which is related to education. So trust me, she's going to get a whole hour to herself because she's like so rock star. I'm going to tell you guys, wait till you hear and I'm going to try to get her on before May, because I think it's so important that we support what it is that other people are doing in their genres. And I want to make sure too. Did I do that? Oh, sometimes I forget where I'm at in my commercial breaks. All right, guys. So we have to take our next commercial break, and we'll be right back after these commercials. Okay, guys, we are back and we are ready for our next one. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm ready to give this person a standing ovation before we even see it. Here we go.
What kind of role models do we have, if we have role models? And where do you see these kinds of role models? Social media. So what are y'all seeing on social media?
I'm an educator. I teach 8th grade humanities, so it's an infusion of history and English with a heavy emphasis on literacy. I am bridging education and activism. I make them question exactly the things that I'm questioning, but from their own way. And we walk down those streets and we look at these places. And on our walk, we look at how the city looks. We look at their own neighborhoods and we talk.
This is going to propel the work you all do to make sure that this type of America ends.
I started recording all of my lessons because I needed to be able to show, and this is before I was a leader in leadership, but I wanted to show like, no, our kids can do this. And so I started making videos and just putting them up.
The heart that I have comes from what I went through. I'm using my pain to catapult me to the next level.
Because of my home being very abusive, I knew I wanted to leave. I had to get out of there. And my mom, she kind of experienced the same thing with my grandmother before I was born. So she ran away at 15. And she ended up, succumbing to the streets. And so I was like, well, I can't run away. I have to go to college. That's the only way out. My story is what allows me to see my students and push them. I can put myself in their shoes and then say, what would I have needed or wanted in that moment?
You have no reason to be insecure in life. What's yours is already yours. I want you to say, what's mine is mine. What's mine is mine.
I love seeing them take something that they're like, what does this mean? And by the end, they're like, no, he means this. You got it, And it's like teaching them, like, you don't have to change your accent. You don't have to say it the way you think you need to say it. You're smart just the way you are. If you're teaching anything that has literature, it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to make sure that these kids walk away with a voice. And everyone doesn't have to have the same passion and fight, and it doesn't have to mirror yours. Mine is education. Theirs could be something totally different, but spark that. Help them find that before they go, because everyone should be standing for something.
An affirmation means it is done. And you say it like it is done. How can we fix that to be an affirmation? I exceeded.
Okay, you already know I love her. Just so we're clear, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so before we even get started, again, thanks Core Elements for joining us. They said we love her. We've been following her on social media for years. I'm going to tell you every time, and they're right. You guys, I've been following her for years, and it was surprising me that people didn't know who she was when I was telling people about this teacher who's like a freaking rock star. That passion deserves X amount of dollars. So to your point, Shannon, and to what Dr. DeVoe is saying, how do we get, I don't know, government? It's not school districts, because your allocation is your allocation dollars, right? So it's not school districts not wanting to pay you, but how can we start subsidizing the pay for teachers who are doing exceptional work? Like, she is bringing it hard. Like, I want to go to her class. Okay, I just want to be clear. I want to go to Baltimore and get in her class because I think she's a rock star. So how do we do that? How do we take teachers at that scale and make it happen? Like, and by the way, she's the example that I would be showing in potential areas where teachers want to be teachers. I would say, if you want to be a teacher, mimic that in your subject area. Bring that passion, because she's like a freaking rock star. I just want to say, I would go see her like it's a concert and get her autograph, really.
So were you asking Shannon or are you asking me? Because I can jump in.
Because Shannon's over there like having his moment.
No, I was just so blown away. I honestly, by the young lady. I feel like I've been like the get off my lawn guy over here. Like
you've never seen her?
No, but
all right.
Yeah, I've been living under a rock. So let me say this: the value of what she is providing to those kids, will change the trajectory of their lives and their lineage.
Yeah,
this is education as like liberatory practice. Like their young minds aren't just being like open; they're being called to action and empowered to do so. Mm-hmm. And her story is such that she knows those kids know her, and their story is her story. And when you get that combination of an understanding of the content and the ability to move young people and the energy to do so, and then I'm just blown away. I totally am. And
she's like magical.
You're right. She should absolutely be like someone's multimillionaire, and not just teaching kids, but teaching teachers how to teach, right?
Yeah, but that's where I'm at. I think she should be teaching teachers how to
give what she has to most adults either.
Yeah, and that's so you just hit that's it right there. That's one of the things, I will be totally honest with you. My principals allowed me to buck the textbook because they knew I was going to take the content that was needed, because they said, you're unusual. So you know how they come in your classroom and they want to look at, how you're doing your lessons and how you're putting it together. I never followed that path. I created my own, because my thing is, when we were talking about light reflection, and the kids kept saying, well, why is this so important? I said, okay, I'm going to teach you why. I went and got markers and t-shirts, and I said, today we're going to do an experiment on tie-dye, but we're going to talk about light reflection, but we're also going to talk about clothing, and we're going to talk about the chemical elements that go into clothing and light reflection at the same time. And they were like, what is she talking about? When we finished, those kids got a clear understanding that your clothes is science. Your clothes are science. You wonder why the colors that you wear, it attracts more heat, because heat is when you look at it, it's a reflection. It's like a mirror. And I try to go through that and explain it to him step by step. And at the end, these little street guys came back. In the end of the day, and although I was hoping it would redirect them, they was like, so what you saying, Miss Burkett, is like our group, we should keep wearing black like year round. I said, what are you saying? He's talking about his little gang on the street. And he said, because it'll keep us cool. Is that what you're saying? Because like we were doing the white t-shirts in the summertime, but you saying the white t-shirts though, it's like attracting more heat. And I was looking at him, I was like, okay, if that's what you got from this lesson, let's go with that. Yes. Yes. I love that. That was one of my moments. And let me tell you something. This guy is a pharmacist now. So obviously I had some impact. I walked into a Walgreens and I'm looking, I said, why do I know that pharmacist? And I'm walking, he said, Miss Burkett, he said, Christine Burkett, my science teacher. I was like, I thought that was one of my students. Oh my God. My little thug life kid is now a pharmacist. So listen, Dr. Shelley, I'm going to tell you, I know you're over there doing cartwheels about her, right?
I absolutely am, but what I will say is that two things. One, her brilliance cannot be underscored. She is that good because at her core, she is smart. She knows her stuff. She knows the various connections around it. And she knows enough to bring that out in a way that it can be delivered to the students at whatever age they are in an age appropriate way, and then push their thoughts. So she's a master facilitator.
Awesome.
What I will also say is that, going back to what Shannon said a little while ago, when 75% of the profession is suburban white women, they don't have the same knowledge. At the end of the day, they're not as smart when it comes to teaching our kids what they need. Malcolm X once said that only a fool would allow the enemy to teach their children. And we all know what he saw. And what he was speaking about was the fact that you've got to understand our history. She said it's a connection of humanities, literacy, and social justice all wrapped into one. And when you have come from a mindset or a life of privilege, or a life where you don't quite understand the plight of people that are going to need to follow a different path towards success and may have to redefine success in different terms, then it becomes a challenge for you to even understand what they need, much less deliver it. She not only understands what they need, she can focus on her delivery because she gets that naturally. So imagine if she didn't know the history, she didn't know the community, she didn't know her curriculum in the ways that, I mean, we saw things like Invisible Man. You saw, I mean, I was looking, you guys were looking at her teaching. I was looking at her books and her walls. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And what she had with the text that she was using, the way that her room looked, the way it was filled with print that is relevant to the children and who they are. People who are not attuned or culturally proficient do not understand that is necessary. Oftentimes they come from a background where they have been either culturally destructive, culturally blind, or they're just culturally pre-competent, to speak to the cultural proficiency continuum. And you cannot teach at that level unless you are culturally proficient. You cannot reach kids at that level when you are culturally pre-competent and you recognize the differences, but you respond inadequately because you just don't know. We can't be teaching you and the kids. Right. And so when we talk about all of these things wrapped into one, she comes in on third base when it comes to this.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And so, when we look at people being able to actually do that, you had it naturally. I had it naturally. Like, why was I became an administrator. I don't skirt this. I became an administrator after only 3 years in the classroom. Why? Because people were walking around classrooms and saw me doing that. And they were like, oh yeah, we need you to go be an AP over here. We need you to help these teachers over here. And that's how I believe I still hold the record in Oakland, Alameda County, California, as being the youngest middle school principal in their history, because I understood it and it was a natural gift. But you can't teach people what they automatically know.
You're so right. I think a lot of our teachers are missing that. Let me make sure I keep, our viewers in. Dr. Vo said it's your responsibility to make sure that these students walk away with the voice and brilliance.
That's what she said. Yes.
And she also said teaching is a calling, a gift from God. And it truly is, because I didn't go to school to be a teacher because I really didn't like kids. I didn't know what was happening. And then my dad says, well, if you're coming here, because I had to come and help out, taking care of my parents. My dad says, well, if you're coming here, kids, they don't see people like you. I need you to go teach chemistry. And I fought kicking and screaming. But I'm going to tell you, getting into education was the best thing for me. It really helped me work on sharing my passion on a whole different level for math and science. And when I saw those boys in their first trip to Las Vegas in a robotics competition, these boys had never left Detroit. And I went straight Detroit. Like, I got us jogging suits that were monogrammed with our team name on it. And those kids were working with Ford executives and engineers designing their robot. I mean, they were like, Miss Burkett, you bringing it. I was like, this is how we do it. Those boys loved it. Now, out of those boys, 3 of them end up being engineers, and 1 actually works at Ford Motor Company right now. But I love that because they were like, that opportunity, me sharing my passion with them was just rock star. And mind you, at the time, my kid was only 3 years old. So I was at school from like 7 o'clock in the morning to like sometimes 8 o'clock at night, spending my time with other kids. But I felt like, you know, my son was with my parents. So he was with grandparents getting value added time. So he didn't miss a beat. Plus he's 2. I mean, you know, basically as long as you read and feed him, read to him, feed him and play with him, he was good. I mean, I sound like a horrible mom, but we had our moments. But all I have to say is these kids, I felt like they needed me more. So guys, we'll be right back after our commercial break, and we're going to get Shannon's spiel on what's the real deal when it comes to teaching dynamics in the classroom. Be right back. Okay, guys, we're going to jump right into our next sparkling moment in education.
All month long, we are celebrating Class Act educators across the country, highlighting some of the incredible teachers determined to help their students succeed. And this morning, Ike Ajachi joined us from Commodore John Rogers in Baltimore with a special story. Good morning, Ike.
Good morning, Michael. We're here in Baltimore this morning having a great time, aren't we? There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's right. Now, as you know, elementary school teachers can make a big difference. And the students here in Miss Palomares' class, yeah, they would know.
Miss Palomares is my favorite teacher because she cheers people up and helps a lot.
A teacher at Commodore John Rogers School in Baltimore, Miss Palomares' students range from kindergarten to the 2nd grade.
Hi, everybody.
She teaches ESOL, which stands for English to Speakers of Other Languages. What does she mean to you that makes her presence in your life so special?
She was the first teacher to really push me to my best standards. She made me who I am now.
School principal Mark Martin hired Miss Palomares back in 2010 when Commodore was one of the worst performing schools in Maryland. He says she was instrumental in helping turn things around.
She's passionate about food and cooking. She's passionate about gardening and sustainability. All those little pieces you could see have been included and infused in the curriculum that she's pushed out. Our students have just done a lot better with that.
Our school mission is 100% for 100%, meaning all of our kids should have access and resources and education to be able to grow up and do the things that they want to do.
When the pandemic hit, only 6 of 30 kindergarten students had what they needed.
And a lot of our students didn't have the devices that they needed or the tools that they needed, headphones, styluses, materials for home. And it was this big shock.
So she got to work, crowdsourcing funds to provide supplies for students. One of the many things this teacher does for her Commodore family.
These are my people. These are the people that I know that regardless of the day, I can reach out to, and they will be there for me, and I'm always there for them.
Now, I am here this morning with Miss Palomares and some of her amazing students. How are we doing, everybody? Good morning. Come on, let me hear you. I know it's early in the morning here, but come on.
Yes.
It's a good time. Now, Ms. Palmar, behind us are some of your students from the 2nd grade all the way up to kindergarten, and all the way up to, well, middle school.
Yeah.
No sense. Now, they're actually coming back here. This is their first day back from remote learning. How do you feel the fact that they're here today to celebrate you?
Oh my goodness. It is just an honor and a blessing to be able to see these guys. They've been my students for the last 10 years, and they are just my heart. They warm my heart. They give me such wonderful energy. Love you guys.
Now, I want to get into something a little bit. You, in that piece, you spoke about the tech divide that's here at Commodore. Just knowing that some of your students don't have the tools to need to the education, as a teacher, how does that make you feel?
So it makes me really worried when the students don't have what they need. I know that they're missing that instruction, that loss of community, and it just makes me feel very stressed for students and families to know that they don't have that day-to-day interaction that we know our students and our families need to thrive.
Right. Well, I got a little something for you. How about that, huh? Now, some of the students here, they have a little message for you. Why don't you take a look?
Oh my God.
Okay.
What's going on?
These students, they have a little surprise for you. James, where are you at? Let me, why don't you come over here and show your teacher a little something. Open it up.
What do we got here?
That's all right. Take a look. The suspense is killing me, guys. I love this part right now. That's right. Our friends at Gizmodo, they heard your story and they wanted to donate 40 iPads just like this one to distribute to your entire class. How about that?
Guys!
But wait, that's not all. I love saying that. They've also decided to give you $5,000 for the school to help fill in the gaps for whatever you need.
Everybody,
How about that? But wait a minute, that's not all. Now, we know that you are the coordinator here for all the Donors Choose programs. That's that crowdsourcing program that you use to help get all the supplies you need for your students and actually for the entire school. So they also wanted to do something. Kiva, I think you got a little surprise here for your teacher, don't you?
What's it got for me?
Why don't you show everybody? That's right. Show everybody this Palmar. The note's there. $10,000. You'll be able to use this for all the materials, all the things you need to make sure that the students here for your class and at Commodore have the resources that you need to actually teach here. So you're seeing this all now. You're seeing these resources. What does this mean for you moving forward for the school and your students?
It just means that we have the resources that we need to continue to do this work. Our teachers, our students are going to have the things that we need to continue to do this work. We're just so lucky. I'm honored. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, Shannon, I'm going to tell you, I have kind of mixed feelings about this.
Do you?
I do. I mean, I'm excited and I'm thrilled, but I think I'm always a little bit concerned that still at this point, this day and age, that we still have to beg, beg and borrow to get people to see, one, there's not enough financial resources in a lot of the school districts to give the students what they need. Like this teacher had to go to crowdfunding. The first thing I'm going to ask is what's happening with all, we got the Easter funding, the Title 1, 2, 3. We've got a lot of other IT grant funding out there during the school year. I'm just curious, where's all the funding going in these school districts that a teacher had to do this much work in the first place? Well, one, I just want to applaud her because she's an outstanding teacher and her students love her and she's doing great work. But why is it teachers have to teach that hard and still have to look for funding?
I agree. It's problematic across the board. I've got probably 3 or 4 concerns.
Okay, go.
So let me be clear. I think it's awesome that the young lady was able to obtain the iPads and some donor dollars for the young people in her classroom.
Mm-hmm.
think it's awesome. I'm wondering with the young lady that was doing absolute magic with those young people. What Day? Is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Is donors choose?
Did Miss Clay get money in donations?
Clay is donors choose going to her classroom because they're in the same city.
They're
right?
in the same city.
By the way, who's giving her 40 iPads and what? First off, why is there a need to give anyone iPads for kids?
iPads
in this day, right?
In this day.
That having been said, you see privilege like personified in that moment.
In that moment.
Yeah, you do. I think it's great for those young people. I think it's great that the resources are there, but you see it, right? Just clearly. Who's knocking down Mrs. Clay's door to provide her
Clays in the world,
right? Yeah.
We got a lot of Clays in the world who are doing a lot of what this teacher was doing. They're looking for funding, looking for resources, trying to do whatever they can do to make sure their kids are learning.
And it shouldn't be, right?
And they shouldn't be.
Yeah, but I think it's great, and I think it's amazing, and I think that those kids will absolutely benefit, and likely have benefited from being in her space.
Oh yeah, but again, it's that equity thing, and that's when we talk about. And I think a lot of the minority teachers feel that way. They feel like the non-minority teachers move up through the ranks where they can make more financial rewards. In the careers in education, you see a lot more non-minorities at the higher levels. And that does concern. I mean, I just happen to be a person that wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Yep.
So me being a CIO at Detroit Public Schools was a no-brainer for me because I don't see my color or my gender being a limitation to what I'm capable of doing.
Absolutely.
And I don't allow people to tell me no. No, it's just a thought for that moment. I'm going to get a yes out of you. And I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, so the thing is, going back to what she said, how do we get people to go into education at this point? And I know it's not something we can solve in this conversation. I feel like it's something that colleges and universities need to do. And I think colleges and universities need to really be knocking down the door of their senators who control their funding, who controls state funding, and who controls funding in general in the government, and say, hey, we're having a shortage of teachers because you guys are not giving us enough money to pay great teachers. So we got to figure out a new dynamic so we can get more people to come in to be certified school teachers. I just think that conversation needs to happen, and school districts need to support that. If school districts support universities and school districts go together and tell their senators, get off your duffs and help us. We need more money.
You're in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Michigan is the home of the big three, right?
Yes.
What was known as the big three. I mean, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, all there. And could you imagine? And let me be clear, the big three built like the black middle class.
Oh yeah.
So, let's call that what it is. Could you imagine going to work on an assembly line and having to crowd fund the tools to build the cars? Like I got this machine that I need to get in order to build these cars, but like I got to raise money to do the job that
exactly.
No, you can't imagine.
It doesn't happen.
It's not a thing.
No.
The fact that it's allowed to be a thing in other segments of society is distressing, to say the least.
Well, I'm going to say, and I'm going to lend to that to say this. They bailed out our automotive industry because they didn't want to see it fail. When is someone going to bail out education because they don't want to see it fail? If we don't have educators in those classrooms, and I mean educated, certified educators with the love and passion for education in these classrooms, you're going to be bailing us out because we need more money. Again, government, we need more money in education. We need to pay these teachers what they're worth so that we do have an education base in order to supply all of these jobs and career opportunities out there. If you only have 5 good teachers in a school district, what do you think you're going to get out of it? The same buffoonery you're getting out of school districts right now. Kids not being able to basically sustain 1 year of college. We got more kids bailing out after the first year because they can't manage it. Come on, government, get on top of it.
You know what? you said something that really I could,
what?
And I won't, because we're over right now.
Shannon, we can go over. That's okay. Hit it.
So just no, I will not. But I will save it for next time. And we
Shannon, there is no next time. Everybody, Shannon's taking the summer off because he has his doctoral classes. So see it tonight,
really?
honey, because that's going to be it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the bailout and those companies that showed up that in their private jets with their hands out in order to the billions of dollars.
Shannon, wait. In private jets, when we have teachers who are one step away from welfare, okay? We have teachers who are working 2 and 3 jobs, and you're pulling up in your own private jet to go get a check to bail your company out.
The values of many of our systems are unfortunately incompatible with the stated expected outcomes, sadly. Like I can't come to work without the tools and do the work that I'm expected to do with the folks that I'm expected to do it with. I can't. Like it doesn't
happen.
No.
And the bottom line is, people, if you don't understand, if we don't put more money and more investment, more love, more passion into our K-12 infrastructure, we're not going to get that sustainable workforce that you're looking for. So either you're going to invest in jails or you're going to invest in education. But it seems like we're pouring a buttload of money into jails and not as much into education.
Now you got it. Now you're about to get me started on the private prisons.
I'm just telling you.
But no, yeah.
I mean, that's the part that really pisses me off, because we're not investing those hours into that. And so, Anissa, thank you so much for joining us. She said, way to go, Shannon. Go be Dr. Smith.
Oh, that means a lot. Thank you.
Anissa, stop kissing up.
No, Anissa is kind, and her words are kind, and I'm inspired. Thank you.
Okay, enough of that. I don't even know what to say about you, Shannon. I'm definitely going to miss you. Of course. I'm gonna have to.
You won't miss me because we're gonna talk. So
I mean, we are gonna talk, and I'm gonna end up doing some pre-recorded shows, maybe on some other days, so people can see you because you've got this following. But what's important to me is that your perspective and your passion on education is truly the reason why we started this podcast. You and I talked about this, and it was just so important that they saw two Black people such as ourselves, 2 Black educators and leaders in education, have a voice. And that was the whole point of this, is that we really wanted to open up the door so people can really see that there is an opportunity for more minorities in education, in leadership. There are more opportunities for teachers to be effective teachers. When I started the podcast and I started doing Tech Talks, I was posting all of these education resources. I couldn't get anyone to follow my page. I didn't understand that. I was doing all the research, and all you had to do was click it and apply for grants. Click it and get free devices. And I kept saying, this is insane. I'm putting so much time into this every Sunday to post all new stuff. And I couldn't get anybody to follow the page. And so my question was, why? I'm doing the work for you. And it was just that why moment. So I'm going to tell you the thing that surprises me. If you want to hide something, put it in a book. And I still believe that. I put everything out there for people to get what they needed to be successful, and they wouldn't go get it. But now that we're doing it on a regular basis, we're going to always support grant funding for school districts and teachers. Every other week, we're going to have new ones out there for you guys to apply for. So regardless, I'm still going to try to support you in any way I can, because I feel like that's a voice that needs to be heard. So before we go, I want to say, Dr. Chastity DeVoe, thank you so much for watching. She says, Shannon, let me know if you need any support or resources in your doctoral program.
Yes. And I will I'll get your contact information from Burkett, and I'll definitely follow up. Thank you so much. More kindness.
You know what? This is just amazing to me. Really.
Appreciate it.
So Shannon, this is going to be your last Wednesday podcast. Not to say that you won't be on another day and we'll post it, but what do you want to say to these guys?
Oh, nothing. I mean, until next time, because we'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
I love you, Shannon. You're like the highlight of my Wednesdays. I don't care what's happening on my Wednesdays. You're like my highlight of a Wednesday.
This is my highlight, so it's much appreciated. Thank you.
I know we have a lot of fun here, and I'm really grateful that we have a great platform, and our rewatch globally is amazing to me. We get more people watching us overseas. After we do the show, they watch it because now they're sleeping. They watch it on their day, which is the next day.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great when I go back and I see we have 400 views.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. So it means that we're doing something great, which I like. And I really appreciate your partnership and your friendship over the years. We've known each other so long. It's just really crazy.
Yeah.
But, I know. And we still look young. I don't even know what to say about that.
We do.
Shannon, I thought about that too. Like, how did Shannon start graying before me?
I've been graying since age of 30. Like, seriously? Yeah, you just never noticed it.
So Shannon, I'll be 51 and I don't have a gray hair yet. And I don't dye my hair.
Sure. Okay. No. Yeah.
So I don't know, but maybe I'm did you wink like she's not dyeing her hair? I'm not dyeing my hair. No, this is all natural, by the way.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome.
I can't believe he did that side wink. And ladies, you support him in his doctoral program. Well, guys, I'm going to say thank you again for watching us on another episode of Educators Roundtable. I hope you guys understand this episode was all about celebrating greatness in education, from students to teachers who are doing amazing things in the classroom. And if you weren't like inspired by that 79, 80-year-old substitute who retired from Ford Motor Company, folks, you got to think twice. If you want to be a substitute teacher and you're watching this podcast, give back. He was part-time. And like Shannon said, he has no idea what the environment or situation was that he's been a substitute teacher for 15 years. But regardless, I just want to say, oh my God. She said, what did she say, Christine? Juices and berries. Really?
Juices
I can't, Shannon. All I got to say is, why is it that people who have known me, Anissa, since college are riding your train? Who says juices and berries to me about me and my hair?
Just good luck.
That's not even a good friend. All right, guys, we will see you next week for another episode of Educators Roundtable. And thank you so much for joining me and Shannon and also Dr. Shelley tonight, and continue to celebrate education because we need it. We need great educators everywhere. And thank you guys for doing an amazing job. Educators are our heroes.